Hi, this is Lydia Cornell, and I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. Oh, it's still the weekend right now. Black Friday, and you had lots of turkey or vegan turkey tofu. Tofurkey. Yeah, that's we had that once. Delicious. Anyway, I want to tell you a story that changed my life, and it happened during my divorce. I was grieving the end of my marriage. I had two little boys I'd raised since the age of 4 and 5, my son and my stepson. And I remember just the burning heartache of a marriage not working out and having to separate the kids when they entered high school. And I went out on the front lawn and I was really deeply sad inside. I could feel this kind of like a sword in my heart. And I couldn't stop crying. And I went out and sat underneath a fig tree. First of all, I looked up and saw this tree and I went, fig tree? I never even knew we had a fig tree. That's how unconscious I was in the marriage. I was always, putting on birthday parties and jumping parties and Pokemon parties and using the front yard for all sorts of play dates and playthings and Halloween decorations. But I never really looked up and saw this tree. And it had no fruit on it. It was just big fig leaves, like in the Adam and Eve allegory. And I remember looking up at that tree and going, wow, no fruit on this tree? How many years have we lived here? 10 years. So at this point, I'm really sad because my stepson is moving away to a different city. He'll go to a different high school. Jack was away with his father that summer, a couple of weeks in New York. And I was alone in the big haunted house. I call it the haunted mansion. It wasn't that big, but it was a corner house, old Tudor house. And I was alone and I couldn't stay inside. The walls were weeping. It was like a grieving house. And I wanted to keep the marriage together even though it wasn't working out. I wanted to keep it together just to prove I could do it. So I'm all alone and I go out and I start just crying under this fig tree and I prayed. Prayer is the invisible transfer of love to another or to yourself or to the universe. And I truly believe God is love, is beauty, is truth, is wisdom, is serenity, is life, is structure, is principle, is all the great goodness. You can call God great universal spirit, Gus, or whatever your concept of God is. There is something in the universe that's so beautiful, it's intangible, but it appears in all the things we love. To me, that's what God is, love, the love in other people. When someone is cruel and they suddenly become kind, I find that a mechanism of the great force of goodness, the force of love. And it really exists. And I've had incontrovertible, tangible miracles. I don't use the word miracle lightly, and I don't think it's a juxtaposition of nature, by the way. I think a miracle is actually natural law, supremely natural, not supernatural. It's the law of the universe. And it just feels like a miracle because we're so used to focusing on the negative that we're not used to these beautiful things happening, but they're natural when you're in the flow and you let go of worry and fear and you trust. But that's another story. Let me get on to my story. So I'm grieving the end of my marriage and I'm feeling just broken inside. And I look up and say to this beautiful spiritual power, wherever it is, because I know it's rescued me before. At this point, I'm pretty sober, 7 years sober at this point, 10 years sober, more than that. And I say, oh, show me the beauty, show me your love. If there is a God, show me. And at that moment, a giant swallowtail butterfly, tiger striped swallowtail butterfly, starts circling my head. And I went, that's so beautiful. It was like it broke me out of my inner anger, my dark side. It was like an external plastic surgery. The butterfly represents plastic surgery in a weird way. It's like, it comes out of this cocoon, this caterpillar, and it morphs out of this ugly, hallway where it's squeezed and it blossoms into the most beautiful creature. And I was like startled out of my depression. And I remember that was the day I started chasing butterflies. It sounds corny, but I needed something external to zap me out of this. I couldn't do it myself inside. It's an inside job. Everything's an inside job. The kingdom is within you, and you have to learn to rescue yourself in a weird way, but that higher power is within you and we're all part of it. But this thing had to come, came from the outside, and another one came over and started circling my head. And I remember Wayne Dyer had said once he was able to stop time playing tennis. There's a great story by Wayne Dyer, the great thinker, the great philosopher, a doctor. And he said that a butterfly landed on his finger once, and he was able to stop time and really focus on the beauty around him, and it changed everything. So this day, I have these butterflies around me, and they're kind of getting me out of my bad mood, and I start feeling kind of, there's a magic going on around me in nature. And I went, wow, look up a little. Stop looking at your navel. Stop analyzing your life too much. Stop being depressed. And it's not easy to jump out of a really bad heartache, but this really got me out of myself. And then I thought, gosh, I'd love to see a monarch butterfly. I'd never seen a monarch up close in person ever in my whole life. And I started researching monarchs that night. And then I got a phone call the next morning to go to a autism event to help autistic children in Del Mar. And the gift was a gift to the San Diego Zoo as a present to me the next day, because Del Mar is near San Diego. And I'm on my divorce trip. I drive down to Del Mar. It's a beautiful journey. I get there. I help these kids with all my friends, meaning we just gave them pep talks and did art projects with them and hung out with their parents and baked brownies and goodies and cookies and just had fun. And then I took my trip to the San Diego Zoo as my gift. And I stayed in the present moment all day. It was like a catharsis. I was letting go of my marriage, weeping the end of my marriage, but I was so startled by the beauty, and I started laughing hysterically. An orangutan in the orangutan cage, which is actually not a cage, but it's a part of the zoo. Two orangutans start making love, and it was really kind of graphic. And these mothers were there with their kids, and they started hiding the kids' eyes. Don't look, don't look. It's like pornography. It's orangutan pornography. And I was laughing, and I was like secretly giggling and filming it. I was so delighted. It was hilarious. And then they started like watching me. And then I went to the gorilla area, and a big, beautiful gorilla turned around and stuck her tongue out at me. And it was hilarious. And she does this often. I have to find her name. She's famous, or she was famous back then. And I was like, oh, this is the cutest thing I've ever seen. I mean, this is hilarious. It's like a comedy show. Then I go over to the elephant and giraffes, the wild animal park, Safari Wild Animal Park. And I wandered over to a place to put down my phone, and maybe there was some French fries at a little place to buy curly fries. And over on the side, everyone's looking at this creature. And I went, what is it? It was a peacock, a bunch of peacocks, but they were out in the live area. They were like near you. They weren't in a cage. And I was awestruck. I've always loved peacocks. They're so beautiful. And this peacock opened his entire feathers for me. It felt like just for me, but there was a toddler next to me oohing and awing over the peacock, and I was oohing and awing over the peacock. And all the parents were walking around jaded, looking at their watches. No one noticed it but the toddler and myself. And I was thinking, I feel like a child today. I got my innocence back. A childlike spirit came back. I'm in love with the universe. If only I could see a monarch butterfly, that was my one wish. And I was so in love with this day. This peacock turned around and modeled his rear end, showed off. He had his feet in fifth position like a ballet dancer. It was like a model on the runway. I was so giggling inside like a child. I was so happy. And I remember driving home that evening. It was still a little bit of daylight out. I get home, it was still twilight. The sun was setting. I go to my front door. I'm full of this happiness. And what is waiting for me at my front door? A monarch butterfly sitting on a white rose. No kidding. And it dawned on me at that moment. The universe is interactive. It wants to show off for us. It wants to play with us. It wants to give us our dreams. But we're never present enough to stay in the present moment to enjoy and appreciate everything going on. We're always having one foot in the future with worry and one foot in the past with regret. If you have one foot in the future and one foot in the past, you're pissing on today. You're never here now to see the beautiful things all around. They're there for the taking, and it wants to give us everything. It's a benevolent universe. And I was so, oh my God, I discovered this. And did I follow that instruction the next day? No, I fell back to my human side, but it did help me get through the next few years of the divorce and the, you know, child visitation and trying to teach my son that you love even those that you didn't get along with. You still love them. You want the best for them. You include people in your life. You don't badmouth anyone. You don't criticize. You don't nag. You don't harp on difficulties. And I really began to really teach my son, I think, the values of life. And I stayed in touch with my other son, and I sent love to him every day. I didn't get to see him very much because he was busy. Life gets busy. But I felt like I'd been transformed in that spiritual plastic surgery. And then, I read an article today that was so beautiful by a woman named Patricia Taylor. And the same thing happened to her. She'd heard from this great naturalist, John Burroughs. She was wondering why she never saw any birds in her garden. And she was a birdist. A birder? Anyway, loved birds. And she lived in Baltimore area for over 20 years and had never seen a Baltimore Oriole. And there's this beautiful orange crested bird with black and orange colors and gorgeous, vibrant bird. She'd never seen one. And then she remembered the saying by the great John Burroughs, the naturalist. He said, if you want to see birds in your garden, first you must have birds in your heart. And she began to think, what does that mean? What do birds represent in the spiritual realm? Oh, soaring aspirations, freedom, happiness, joy, color, beauty, beyond the corporeal world, beyond the mortal world. Birds represent soaring, flight, beauty, freedom. And she started meditating on these concepts and thinking of herself as a free bird, as a beautiful creature, divinely guided, meant to soar, that her dreams were meant to soar, take wing. And literally 3 days after praying this way, she called it prayer, but I call it, dwelling on the good. Same thing. She went to the library, and at the entrance to the library was a Baltimore Oriole, as if it was posing for her, waiting there, just like my butterfly. So as corny as this may sound, I really believe we have it all wrong. We are focused on the wrong things. And if you want to have a great day and you want your life to work out and you want job opportunities to come, all those doors are opening for you all around, but you can't see them unless you're in the present moment, appreciating what's going on right now, making the best of this moment and helping someone else. Unselfish love receives directly the divine power. So I hope you got something out of this, and I love you very much. That's a God shot. Okay. Have a great holiday, and I'll see you next week. Oh, one last thing I forgot to add. The fig tree that I had in my front yard for 10 years, never noticed, and it never had figs on it. By the end of this year, the year of my transformation, it was full of figs, full of fruit. My life had come to fruition, honestly. And every single day, it gets better and better the more I look up and look for the good. Gratitude is the activator. If you're not grateful for what you have right now, you will not get more because you're not able to see it, number one. But gratitude actually, being grateful and appreciating what you have makes your life appreciate. It's not just a cliche. I mean, the more you're grateful, the more you make room for abundance. Try it.